I'm over here at the Sam Neill Museum, and right now they're having a special little exhibit that's traveling around. It is a folio of Shakespeare, a first edition folio of Shakespeare. And usually folios are preserved for Bibles or important works like histories and laws of science. But this one, this was made by two of his friends to collect much of Shakespeare's work. This is all that's in this first edition here. All right. And let's see, All's Well That Ends Well, A.Z. Cleopatra, Carolinus, Hamlet, Henry VIII, as you can see, Julius Caesar, Macbeth, Taming of the Shrew, Tempest, Winter's Tale. Here's the significance of this. All the ones you see in orange are the only known first published copies. We don't find them in any other sources of these. All the ones in white we find in other sources. But here, if it wasn't for this first edition folio, we would never known these works at all. Now think about that. Macbeth, Taming of the Shrew. Let's see, The Tempest, that's one of my favorites. If it wasn't for his friends trying to put this volume together, much of what we know of Shakespeare would probably have been lost in history. Let's go. So yes, this is a first edition copy of the folio. One of several, of course. It was printed in numbers, but this one is turned to a page from Hamlet.
The most famous quote of all time.
Oh, yes. So while this is not the only copy of the first folio, it's one of the few surviving ones, and without that much of Shakespeare that we know, of the famous works that we know of, that we so integrated into our lives, that we wouldn't have them. Now on this poster right here, it talks about that the popularity of that first folio was so good, they made second, third, fourth folios as well afterwards. But right here, this is where it's fascinating. Here we got 233 number of known first folios until the next one's found. So of all the ones printed, that's how many we currently have floating around, and the one I just showed is one of them. 750 estimated number of first folios were printed. Price of a new first folio of 1623, £1, roughly about $250 today. 900 about how many pages are in the first folio. So yeah, I don't know if this would which other places this would be traveling around. However, if you're in Oklahoma or particularly Norman area, take a look around. Looking at this folio here is free. You still have to pay to go to the rest of the museum, but if you just ask to look for the folio only, then that's free for everyone who wants to look at it. So there you go. If you're a Shakespeare fan or just love, that type of history and all that, and you want to see a good actual piece of history that survived at this time, come over to Sam Noble and have a look for yourself.
She just retired last year. Oh, wow.
So there you go. As I said before, this folio is a very interesting piece because without that, many things of Shakespeare, some of his most popular work, would not have been known today if we didn't have surviving copies of this book. As I say in the list before, what the ones in white are from other sources, probably the actual original play, written plays and all that. But things like Hamlet, of all things, Hamlet, to be or not to be. If it wasn't for this folio, we would not have something recorded as carried on today, along with Taming of the Shrew and and one of my personal favorites, The Tempest. Now, for the record, besides for The Tempest, there wasn't too much of Shakespeare I really wanted to read. I've never been a huge Shakespeare fan. Nothing against him, but I understand his cultural significance in not just English language, but throughout the world. In high school, they try to stress the importance by every year in high school, freshman and senior year in English class, they had a section for one Shakespeare. There was one year, the first year we had Romeo and Juliet. Everybody knows that one. Another year we had Julius Caesar. One was Macbeth. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the fourth one was. But either way, back then I wasn't too interested. And to me, I have a hard time reading certain forms of poetry, because if I try to pick up on the meter, I don't pick up what it's saying. My mind's kind of weird that way. But, I understand its cultural significance, how much it integrates. It's like Latin. The Latin language, which is dead, but if you look around, it's everywhere. It's a living dead language. It makes it's all over the world in small forms or written. It makes mottos easy, stuff like that. Shakespeare is, while not dead, it's still alive, but it's taken in, it's shoved in every aspect of culture as possible. One of my favorite movie directors is Akira Kurosawa, and he did like at least two or three movies where it is Shakespeare integrated in feudal Japan. Throne of Blood, which is Macbeth. The first one Akira Kurosawa film I ever watched was Ran, which is King Lear, and there was I think there was another one as well, but. All that, so you think about this guy who wrote these plays and poems and everything, and we have them all that we know of, but if it wasn't for things like this folio, we've been missing pieces of it. And you may not think it, much directly in your everyday life, how, what the significance of that, but, I try to read what I can, and many of the authors I have, incorporate Shakespeare. Neil Gaiman, who did American Gods, Stardust, and all that, he, one of his first breakthrough works was in the comic series The Sandman by DC Comics, or Vertigo. Same difference there, one's separate group the other. But in the Sandman series, there's a couple of comics where the main character, Morpheus, the Dream King, goes to Shakespeare, and if I recall, he makes a deal with him, gives Shakespeare the inspiration to write the works that he wants to do, to come up with these stories. In return, Dream asked for 2 books for him, and the first one was A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was which was an award-winning comic. Which the issue was Shakespeare performs out in the middle of nowhere with his acting troupe, and he puts he does A Midsummer Night's Dream for Morpheus and the King and Queen Fairy and all the subjects. And there was that, and the second one, which was one of the last issues, was The Tempest. I think it was the next to the last issue, where Shakespeare is going about his day, and he finishes The Tempest, and he has a dream where he meets Morpheus, and he gives him a copy of the book, and they had a discussion. And The Tempest, to me, I've read it a few years ago, and I enjoy it. It's very short and all that. That's one of the things I like about it, but I like the atmospheric elements with him, with the main character, and his ability to try and get revenge through use of magic and spirits and all that. It just, I don't know. It's just a picture alone, as it just draws me to it, and so yeah. So even though I've never been a huge Shakespeare fan, there are things I get into that have Shakespeare influenced that, and whether you like it or not, this is a relatively important piece of history. So yeah, Samuel, you have a chance, go ahead and look at it. Or if you can find where it's tracking around, get a chance to look up with your own eyes. Think that this is one copy of a folio of over 200 currently known. That if it wasn't for his 2 friends doing that, we will still have Shakespeare, but some of the most popular known Shakespeare would not have been passed down, and would never been integrated, and the shape of things would have been slightly different. Something to think about. Alright, thank you all for watching.